Good morning.
All right, let's go. Good morning, at the rest.
Morning.
Okay. All right. So what we learned so far is that this pasuk the Maamar is based on, "I will walk in your midst." That pasuk has a double expression of walking, because the Torah, just in the grammar, the way the Torah writes it, sounds like there's two movements happening. So we explained that this is referring to a movement from above to below and a movement from below to above, which are happening simultaneously. And that this promise that Hashem is giving us in this pasuk is something which is reserved only for the coming of Mashiach. So to explain the first half, what does it mean to move from below to above? We learned about the analogy of climbing a mountain. And we said in climbing a mountain, there are many conditions. Condition number one is to know where you're going. Condition number two is to be strong enough to climb. And condition number three is to wear the appropriate garments. And so far, what we know about the condition number one, know where you're going, we learned that there is a need to serve Hashem without any selfish motives. And as the Gemara says, that if a person studies Torah, but doesn't have fear of Hashem, so he doesn't merit that his Torah study actually goes in the right place. Instead, the Torah study itself adds energy to the opposite of holiness temporarily. Until he studies that same subject, again, for the right reasons, that the Torah itself adds energy to the unholy. Now I'm going to continue on and discuss this same point about knowing where you're going regarding mitzvahs. We're on the page Chesed, line 25. I'll just say it outside. Regarding mitzvahs, it says that it's possible for a person to do the mitzvah of honoring his father and mother, and yet the guy will end up in Gehenna. Why? Because he honors them in a way that he disgraces them. The Gemara gives the example of someone who brings his father pheasants, tumas, which have been fattened, but he does it with panav pushas bakarka, with his face in the ground. You know he's doing a great thing. The Gemara says that it brings the opposite, because it causes him to inherit Gehenna because he's disgracing his father, even though he's doing the mitzvah. But while he's doing the mitzvah, he's also disgracing his father. So that's an example of something you have to know where you're going. To climb the mountain of God, you have to know where you're going. So he's doing the right thing, but it ends up having the adverse effect. He doesn't think where he's going. It's about honoring his father. So if he brings it to his father while he's insulting his father, like his face is down, like, oh man, here you go again. You want cottage cheese? Here you go. So is with all the mitzvahs, and the mitzvah has to be done with the right way, and for the sake of Hashem, without any selfish motives. So besides knowing the routes to climb the mountain of Hashem, we said you have to know the route. Besides it, you also have to know the nesivos. Nesivos means the small paths. What's the difference between knowing the route versus knowing the paths? The derech versus the nesivos. A derech is a paved road for everybody. That's a derech. A nesiv means a small little path. There's the road and there's the path. So the idea of knowing the paths to rise up on the mountain of God means to understand godliness. To understand godliness in a way that brings you to love and have reverence for Hashem. And by having that understanding that will motivate, generate those feelings of love and reverence for Hashem, that's how you're able to ascend the mountain of God. That's how your neshama is able to ascend the mountain of Hashem. But in order to get up the mountain of Hashem, you have some baggage with you. You have to take with you also your animal soul. That's the second condition. In mountain climbing, you have to be strong enough to climb. That means you have to carry something and be able to carry it and not be burdened by your crouching under your burden. Like the Torah says about the donkey who's crouched under its burden. If you want to climb the mountain of Hashem, you have to be able to be strong enough to carry the burden. So that means that not only is your animal soul not stopping you, but that you're taking your animal soul with you. That doesn't explain the second condition here. And also from Chassidus, it talks about how you have to think about godliness in a way that is attractive for your animal soul. So your animal soul feels like this is good for me. And it's not just because Hashem said so, but that it's something that you find meaning in personally and you consider to be a beautiful thing to do because it's so amazing, because it's so wonderful. So you have to think about Torah mitzvahs in a way that brings your animal soul with you. That's condition number 2. To be strong enough to carry the burden, bring your animal soul with you. Condition number 3 in mountain climbing is to wear the appropriate clothing. That means that not only is your clothing that you're going to wear on this trip up the mountain not going to disturb you, but on the contrary, the clothing you'll wear is going to assist you. What's clothing? Clothing refers to our garments, our thoughts, our words, and our actions. Those are the garments of the soul. And there are 2 different elements in those garments. There is the energy in those letters, and the words we say, and the thoughts that we think, and there is the letters themselves. So the way to rectify thoughts or words which have been said and which which leave much to be desired, let's say, is by putting positive energy in your service of Hashem, to love Hashem, to have reverence for Hashem. So instead of having the negative energy you had before, you were saying all kinds of angry stuff or whatever, so to rectify the energy that went in the wrong direction, you need to have positive energy, love and reverence for Hashem, to go the other way. So by thinking about the greatness of Hashem and giving birth through that meditation to love and reverence for Hashem, that produces the wings that allows your mitzvahs to ascend upwards. But that's only regarding the energy of the letters. Then there's the letters themselves. So in order to rectify the letters themselves, for them to be elevated, so Chassidus says that there's a pasuk which talks about this rectification. The pasuk is Chaimas Bastien Haridi Kanachal Bima. The wall of the daughter of Zion, let your tears go down like a river. It means cry a lot. The tears are produced by the brain being frakvetch. The brain experiences something that's so overwhelming that the brain is just frakvetch. The brain can handle it. So by thinking about how you were separate from Hashem, and even though it was only temporarily, but nevertheless, it doesn't matter what happened the moment before or a moment after. At that moment, you could have been connected with the essence of Hashem, and you were separate from Hashem. So that causes the heart and the mind to become verklempt and verkvetched. As verklempte hearts and verkvetchte Kopf. That causes your heart to be irritated and your brain to be irritated, and that creates tears. And since you're unable to express that feeling in letters, and the brain can't handle it, so this rectifies the letters themselves. In other words, the words themselves that you shouldn't have said or that you shouldn't have thought, the way to rectify them is by by experiencing something that's beyond your mind. Your mind can't handle it. And this breaks the letters themselves. It breaks the wall. So we said that the water of Zion, let your tears flow down like a river. How do you break the wall of the letters themselves? It's not sufficient just to put energy in the right place. That's the way to rectify the energy being in the wrong places throughout love and reverence for Hashem. How do you rectify the letters themselves? That's through experiencing this pain of the separation from Hashem in a way that's beyond letters, that letters can't express. And through this, you are able to break the wall of the opposite of holiness, and you're able to build the wall of the daughter of Zion. How do you build the daughter of Zion? It's through tears. The rest don't try this at home, folks. It's not in our generation. It's not something that we could really do successfully. This is not easy for everyone to do and still maintain their equilibrium. Most people, they go into this and they get depressed or whatever. But it's only when you have these three conditions that you have the proper clothing, thought, speech, and action. You have the power. You have power to carry the burden, meaning that you're taking your animal soul with you instead of your animal soul bringing you down. And number three, you know the roads and you know the paths. Then you're able to enter and climb the mountain of Hashem. A similar thing is discussed also about going up to Gan Eden. Gan Eden is also called the mountain of God. So just like a mountain in simple sense is inanimate, and you're climbing up something which is inanimate, as opposed to a tree which itself grows, but a mountain is inanimate, it stays in the same place. So too, when we talk about climbing Gan Eden, in order to ascend in Gan Eden itself from this world to Gan Eden, the way to get there, you have to pass through a place called the River of Fire. And why you have to pass through the River of Fire? Because in order to enter Gan Eden, you have to leave all thoughts about this world. Doesn't mean you forget the people you love, but even if you forget the physicality, you're not into the physicality of stuff. And so by entering this River of Fire, I know it sounds like it's not so fun to go into the River of Fire, but I don't think it's necessarily, I don't know. I don't know exactly what the experience is in that River of Fire, but the point of going to the River of Fire is not to punish. It's in order to forget what you saw in this world. So too within Gan Eden itself, that's just to get from this world to Gan Eden. To go up in Gan Eden itself, from one level of Gan Eden to a higher level of Gan Eden, you also have to forget what you saw in the lower level of Gan Eden. Your understanding or your appreciation for godliness at the lower level of Gan Eden is great, but it's a disturbance compared to the higher level of Gan Eden you want to get to. So it's a good thing that you've achieved this, but again, you have to forget again where have you been in Gan Eden to get to the higher level of Gan Eden. Like the famous story about Reb Zera. Reb Zera had to fast 100 fasts to forget the Babylonian Talmud in order to learn the Jerusalem Talmud. Although the Babylonian Talmud is also a good thing, it's Torah. But the Babylonian Talmud method of study is through darkness, through questions and answers, and only through darkness and questions to understand a deeper appreciation of Torah. And that disturbs the Jerusalem Talmud, which is pure light. So too in Gan Eden itself, to ascend from the lower level of Gan Eden to the higher level of Gan Eden, you need to have this river, you need to forget about what you saw in the lower level of Gan Eden in order to get the revelation of the higher level of Gan Eden.
Is the whole court case that happens up above after 120 years before this forgetting situation or after? Because if you forget everything down here, how do you represent yourself and defend yourself if you don't remember anything?
I think it's afterwards. I think it's afterwards because it says to get to Gan Eden. So it doesn't. It's not about the judgment. It's about getting to Gan Eden. I think it's after judgment. Besides,
just rely on Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai.
Amen. We're lying the Shimon Bar Yochai generation. We're heading to Bias Mashiach and Chias Mason, so we don't have to really worry about the trips over there. The point really is a trip over here. How to see the mountain of Hashem. But anyways, besides the river, there's something else. There's also an elevator. The elevator in Gan Eden is called the Amud. Just like an Amud, just like a pillar in a house connects the floor with the roof, with the ceiling rather. So too, the idea of this pillar in Gan Eden that connects one level to the other. What happens in this pillar is that the one who ascends becomes one with the higher level. In other words, the meaning of the river is more about, it's a negative thing, to make you forget about where you were before. The idea of the pillar is that the neshama experiences bittul. Okay, there's two kinds of bittul. There's a bittul that you're having by forgetting what you saw before. You're losing your previous existence. And then there is becoming one with the new place you're going. The new place that you're going is also a place of bittul. It's also a place of devotion to Hashem. It's in Gan Eden after all, right? But this new level that you're reaching is a higher level of bittul. It's a higher, deeper level of bittul, deeper level of obligation for Hashem. So to become a vessel for the revelation of this new level of that you're going to, you have to become one with it. And so therefore there is a need for you to get into the zone of this higher level of bittul. And that's the meaning of this pillar. It's about your existence being subsumed into this new level, to this higher level. So this elevation of the river and the pillar exists in every single level, in the thousands of levels in Gan Eden itself. Although it only mentions two levels in Gan Eden, the lower level and the higher level of Gan Eden, the truth is there is a multitude of levels, it's an infinite amount of levels. And that's the meaning of the three prayers we recite every day, that because there are so many levels, each prayer brings neshama to a higher level. And after losing the level you were at before, by forgetting the level you were at before, then you're able to ascend to the higher level. And then go on and on. And it says, Tzaddikim have no rest. They go from strength to strength, always ascending. So the whole trip in Gan Eden depends on what we do in this world. The way the neshama serves Hashem in this world, that's the way the neshama is elevated in Gan Eden. There are some souls that only merit to go to the lower level of Gan Eden. There's some neshamas that merit to go to the high level of Gan Eden. And even those neshamas that merit to go to the high level of Gan Eden, they have to travel through the lower level of Gan Eden. And so this is all to explain this whole long explanation we gave about this climbing mountain of God. That's all in reference to the verse, I will walk among you, Hashem says, and that those words, I will walk, means two kinds of movement, from below to above and above to below. So far we've only discussed going from a below to above in this world, the three conditions of climbing the mountain of God, and within the Gan Eden, how to travel from one level of Gan Eden to a higher level of Gan Eden. But then there is another kind of movement, which is not about us ascending upward to come closer to Hashem. Rather, it's above to below, which doesn't require any conditions. The Elyon, the one who is higher, is in the higher place. He knows the roads. He knows the paths. He's strong. That means in order to descend from above to below, unlike we said in the parable, in the analog, we said that you have to be strong to climb the mountain of God. But if we're talking about Hashem's descent from above to below, Hashem, revelation gang is from above to below, there's no condition to be strong. The one who's there is strong. There is a need to have strength because Hashem has to contract his light. So besides the fact that you don't need as much strength because you're not climbing, but you do need strength to contract the light, but he has strength. Also, garments don't matter so much when you're descending from above to below. And not only does it not matter from Hashem's perspective, he doesn't need any specific garments, but also from our perspective, it doesn't matter what we're wearing. to receive the revelation that's coming from above to below. Like, for example, God gave us the Torah. That was a revelation from above to below. As it says in the Torah, God descended on Mount Sinai. So it didn't matter what level we were at, the revelation still happened. When we left Egypt, it says the people ran away. And in Tanya, the author explains, if we would have told the Pharaoh that we want to leave forever, he would have had to let us go. But the meaning of us running means that there was friction. There was a part of us that wanted to stay. There's a part in us that was a Pharaoh-like part and says, hey guys, why are you leaving Egypt? Egypt was great. So the meaning of us running away means that there's friction in leaving Egypt. So because of our bodies, because of our animal soul, we had to run away because part of us was saying stay. It was the meaning of running away means that there's friction. You can say like there's this wholesome feeling of let's go out of Egypt. There's part of you like, no, I don't want to go out of Egypt. So although we did Sfira Omer, and Sfira Omer is supposed to refine us and elevate us, nevertheless, the revelations that we experience, we got the Torah, are incomparably greater than whatever we could possibly accomplish in Sfira Omer. So it comes out that the whole revelation at Sinai, and we got the Torah, was from above to below. It didn't matter what level we were on. And this revelation caused, we got the Torah, caused that all of the impurity that was brought to the world through Adam and Chava was removed. And this revelation was in a way that we could hear God's voice coming from all directions. I am the Lord your God, coming from every direction. And there's also Tchias HaMesim that happened at that point. Sorry. There was Tchias HaMesim at that point, but that's not what they're saying here. They're saying also, we find about Tchias HaMesim that will happen at the resurrection of the dead is something that comes from above to below. It doesn't require any preparation on our part. That's why it says that every Jew will merit Tchias HaMesim. Except for those that are listed in the Talmud, those that don't believe Tchias HaMesim. But every Jew merits Tchias HaMesim. It's not like a Eden with all these levels. But rather, every Jew has a share. Why? Because Tchias HaMesim is about the Elyon, Yered Lamata. It's about something divine descending on this world. And therefore, it doesn't matter what level we're on, it just happens. That difference between revelation from above to below and below to above. And below to above, you have to climb the mountain of God, you have to be strong, you have to wear clothing, you have to know where you're going. Whereas, in order to, for the revelation that comes from above to below, like the revelation that happened at Mount Sinai, the revelation that happened with Ship will come in the resurrection of the dead, it doesn't matter what level we're on. That's just something God gives us, whether we're ready or not. L'chaim, l'chaim. Great day, David. Great day, Reb Zev. Great day,